Hello, my name is Herbert Alpiger, and I will be your instructor for this course on maintenance publications. As an aircraft technician, you will be responsible for knowledge of and compliance with FAA regulations. Compliance will include the disposition of records, forms, scheduling of maintenance, as well as minor and major repairs and alterations. All of this must be accomplished in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations and/or FAA regulations. Much of the work of an A&P mechanic is research. Because there is such a wide range of specifications between the various makes and models of aircraft, it is important that the person performing the work know exactly which set of limits he is going to be working with. It is impossible to remember all of the specifications and information needed to do a job on an aircraft, and you are strongly encouraged not to try to do so. You must, however, be able to look up the information quickly and interpret it accurately. The primary regulatory tools of the FAA are the Federal Aviation Regulations, or FARs. The FARs are broken down into sections or parts. Parts 23, 25, 27, 33, and 35 of the Federal Aviation Regulations all pertain to the airworthiness standards of aircrafts, their systems, and components. FAR Part 43 is the section which you, as an aircraft mechanic, will likely become the most familiar. Part 43 outlines the standards for aircraft inspection, repair, and maintenance, as well as for record-keeping requirements. In FAR Part 43, you will find the definition of a repair. Also in Part 43, we find the definition of an alteration. FAR Part 65 covers the certification requirements and the privileges and limitations of aircraft maintenance technicians. We will cover Part 65 extensively in the course titled Privileges and Limitations. In addition to the Federal Aviation Regulations, during this course, we will discuss advisory circulars, the Service Difficulty Reporting Program, Airworthiness Directives, Type Certificate Data Sheets, Supplemental Type Certificates, Instructions for Continued Airworthiness, Manufacturer's Publications, Technical Manuals, Manufacturer Operating Publications. There are two general types of data you as an aviation maintenance technician will reference when performing maintenance, repairing, or altering an aircraft or one of its systems or components. Acceptable data and approved data. You can see examples on the screen before you of each. Advisory circulars are issued by the FAA to inform the aviation community about non-regulatory information of interest. They are issued in a numbered subject system that corresponds to the FAR subject areas. For example, Advisory Circular 4313 provides information and guidance to the aviation maintenance technician that will aid him in performing maintenance and alterations in a manner that complies with FAR 4313. The Service Difficulty Reporting Program was set up by the FAA to ensure aviation safety. It consists of malfunction or defect reports and airworthiness alerts. The malfunction or defect reporting system was set up to identify service difficulties and safety problems associated with aviation maintenance. The information collected is submitted by aviation maintenance technicians in the field. On the screen before you now is an example of a malfunction or defect reporting form that, once completed by the maintenance technician, is mailed to the FAA. Aviation maintenance alerts are issued monthly and are prepared from information submitted by persons who operate and maintain civil aeronautical products. The alerts provide a uniform means through which safety and service experience may be exchanged. Their intent is to improve safety and service reliability of aeronautical products. Airworthiness directives are legally enforceable rules incorporated into FAR Part 39. Their purpose is to notify aircraft owners of unsafe conditions in aircraft that were not detected during the initial aircraft design and testing. Airworthiness directives apply to aircraft engines, propellers, and appliances. Dependent upon the urgency, airworthiness directives are published in one of three categories: Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, Final Rule, Emergency ADs. A Notice of Proposed Rulemaking is published in the Federal Register when an unsafe condition in a product is discovered. They usually allow a 60-day comment period where interested parties are invited to comment on the NPRM by submitting relevant written data, views, and arguments. The Notice of Proposed Rulemaking may be changed in light of the comments received. When a Notice of Proposed Rulemaking is adopted as a final rule, it is then published in the Federal Register and printed and sent to all registered owners of the product affected via first-class mail. Final rules are issued when an unsafe condition warrants the immediate adoption of a rule without prior notice. Emergency ADs are of an urgent nature and cannot wait until publication in the Federal Register. Some airworthiness directives are issued for items other than registered aircraft. These items include engines, propellers, and appliances. Airworthiness directives are identified in maintenance records and for other purposes by a three-part number. To indicate an airworthiness directive has been revised, an R is placed at the end of the three-part AD number. If the AD has been revised more than once, a subscript number is placed behind the R to indicate the number of the revision. It is the responsibility of all registered aircraft owners and operators to ensure that all airworthiness directives affecting their aircraft are complied with. The content of an airworthiness directive may be divided into four categories: applicability, compliance date and time, effective dates, and required action. Airworthiness directives contain an applicability statement which specifies the product to which they apply, whether it be the aircraft engine, propeller, or appliance. Applicability is further determined by the product model, the serial number, or the category of certification. Airworthiness directives will always state by when an AD must be complied with. This may be stated in a number of different ways: at each annual inspection, by a specific date, before further flight, a specific number of hours of operation, a specific number of operations or cycles. These are all different examples. Some airworthiness directives require repetitive inspections and do not always have a one-time compliance. The effective date of an airworthiness directive is usually found in the last sentence of the body of the AD. In the case of a revision, the effective date of the revision is given along with the effective date of the original amendment. Some examples of the type of action an airworthiness directive may require are inspections, replacement of parts, modification of design, a change in operating procedures. The required action may be described fully in the AD, or it may reference a manufacturer's service bulletin. There may also be specific notification or record-keeping requirements specified in an AD. Federal Aviation Regulation, Part 39.27, specifies whether an AD or service document takes precedence when there is a conflict between the two. Federal Aviation Regulation, Part 91.417, requires that the aircraft maintenance records contain the current status of applicable ADs, including the method of compliance, the AD number, the revision date, the time and date when the next action due is required, if the AD requires recurring action. Type certificate data sheets are evidence that a product is type certified. They list limitations and information required for type certification, including approved engines and propellers, minimum fuel grade, location of the datum, airspeed limitations, leveling means, number of seats and their arms, oil and fuel capacity, required equipment and placards, maximum weights, and control surface movements. A supplemental type certificate, or STC, is an approval issued by the FAA for a modification to a type certificated airframe, engine, or component. Much like the type certificate data sheet, the aircraft listing contains the specifications and data for certificated aircraft, but only for those of which 50 or fewer are registered. Aircraft specifications are similar to the type certificate data sheets, but are for aircraft certificated under the Civil Air Regulations rather than the Federal Aviation Regulations. Instructions for continued airworthiness are detailed instructions describing how to inspect and maintain all portions of the airframe, power plant, propeller, and accessories to keep the aircraft in an airworthy condition. On this slide, you see a partial sample of instructions for continued airworthiness for an STC for a propeller and spinner change on the Cessna A152. Service bulletins, service letters, and service instructions are the means by which manufacturers communicate with aircraft owners information about manufacturing defects, new service requirements, or design improvements. In this slide, you see portions of a Piper service bulletin requiring the replacement of the aluminum battery cables with copper cables to eliminate hard starting and heat buildup in the cables. Other commonly used manufacturer publications include Maintenance Manual, the Overhaul Manual, Structural Repair Manual, and the Illustrated Parts Catalog. Maintenance manuals for certificated aircraft and their components are approved by the FAA and may be used as approved data when making repairs. On this slide, you can see some of the various items that would be contained in a manufacturer service manual. Overhaul manuals are available for aircraft components such as the engine, magnetos, starters, and alternators. The Structural Repair Manual contains information on making airframe repairs. The Illustrated Parts Catalog contains a sketch and part number for every part in an aircraft to facilitate ordering replacement parts. A technical standard order is an approval issued by the FAA for the manufacture of a component for installation on a certificated aircraft.